Chapter 1. What if truth is not something you find, but a fire you must carry? There's a sound, isn't there? A low hum beneath the noise of the world. The sound of a truth that is uncomfortable. A truth that doesn't sell anything, doesn't flatter anyone, doesn't make anything easier. It's the truth of a cold floor in an empty room. The truth of a missed opportunity that echoes for decades. The truth of a system that is not broken, but is functioning exactly as it was designed. And the design is the problem. This is the truth that Cornel West carries. He does not hold it gently. He carries it like a blazing torch. And the first thing it does is burn away the comfort of illusions. For a man in the second half of his life, this is a familiar fire. You've seen the illusions burn away before. The illusion that hard work is always rewarded. The illusion that institutions are inherently wise. The illusion that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice all on its own. It does not. It bends because people like West, and perhaps like the part of you that listens now in the quiet, put their shoulders to it and heave. West's truth is not a set of facts. It is a disposition, a relentless, unyielding no in the face of lies. But here is the secret, the softer whisper beneath the roar. It is a no that is born from a deeper, more profound yes. A yes to what humanity could be. His fiery condemnation of the world's injustices is, in fact, the flip side of a devastating love for what the world has failed to become. Think of that. Your greatest critiques, your deepest frustrations, are they not also born from a love for something? A standard that you believe in, that you know in your bones, we are failing to meet? He speaks of leaning into the wreckage, of bearing witness. This is not the work of a sunny optimist. It is the work of a sailor who knows the storm is real, but who stays at the wheel, reporting the conditions in a voice that will not tremble. For a man who has built a life, provided, protected, and navigated his own storms, this voice resonates. It is a mature voice. It has earned its gravity. It understands that carrying this fire of truth will not make you popular. It will isolate you. It will mark you as difficult, as not a team player. Because most teams, it turns out, are more interested in comfort than in truth. But what is the alternative? To let the fire go out? To agree with the world that something is good enough when you know, in the quiet chambers of your own heart, that it is a betrayal of something sacred. The cost of that is a slow, silent death of the spirit, a gradual numbing, a settling. And a man who has lived enough years knows the taste of that settling. It tastes like dust. So the question isn't really what is true. The question he poses to us in the dark is, do we have the courage to carry the fire? To be a living, breathing, uncomfortable truth in a world of comfortable lies? To be the one who speaks the sentence that everyone is thinking, but no one will say, and in doing so, not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of love. For love of what is right, love of what is real. It is a lonely vocation, but it is a sacred one. And in the loneliness, there is a strange comfort. The comfort of integrity, the warmth of the fire you carry, not to warm yourself, but to see by, to see the path ahead, to see the others out there in the dark who are carrying their own flames. And you are not so alone after all. And so, the bearer of truth, if he is true, soon finds his path inevitably crossing with the oldest and most weary of human desires, the desire for justice. But what if we've been hearing its call all wrong? Chapter 2. Is justice the destination or the name of the road we walk together? We like to picture justice as a statue, a blindfolded woman with scales, immobile, eternal, waiting for us to arrive. We file our petitions, we win our cases, we pass our laws. We believe we are building a staircase to her feet, and one day we will reach her. Our work will be done. But what if that's the wrong picture? What if justice is not the destination? What if, as Dr. West suggests, through a life of constant motion and protest, justice is the road itself, the quality of the journey, the manner in which we walk together? Think of the deepest injustices you've witnessed, or perhaps endured. Was the wound merely the outcome? Or was it the process? The humiliation, the powerlessness, the feeling of being unheard, unseen, a ghost in the machine of your own life. Justice, then, cannot simply be a corrected outcome delivered from on high. It must be a restoration of voice. It must be the experience of being seen, heard, and counted. It is relational. It is active. It is a verb. Cornel West does not merely advocate for justice. He enacts it through his solidarity. He shows up on picket lines, in prisons, in struggling communities. His philosophy is not housed in an ivory tower. It walks on the asphalt. It gets tired. It gets arrested. It gets its shoes dirty. This is a powerful metaphor for a life of substance. It asks us, where do we show up? Not just with our money or our votes, but with our presence. For whom do we become a physical testament that says, you are not alone, your struggle is mine? This is the blues element in West's thought. The blues isn't about self-pity, it's about the solidarity of sorrow. It's about singing a song so specific to your pain that it becomes universal, and everyone who hears it sees their own pain reflected. And for a moment, the loneliness vanishes. Justice is like that, the recognition that my dignity is utterly bound up with yours, that if you are treated as less than human, my humanity is also diminished. We are, as he says, in each other's business. But this road is long, and it is fraught with disappointment. You will work for change and see change reversed. You will stand for what is right and see wrong prevail. This is where the maturity of the Spirit is tested. Do you only walk the road when you believe the destination is near? Or do you walk it because the walking itself, the act of solidarity, the integrity of protest, the love expressed in resistance, is the only thing that keeps the darkness at bay? The destination may be a mirage, but the comradeship, the solidarity, the shared commitment, that is real. That is tangible. That is the justice you can feel in your soul right now, even in the midst of the struggle. To walk this road is to choose a different kind of victory, not the victory of a rival, but the victory of integrity, the victory of knowing that when history asked, who was there? Who stood up? Your voice, however quiet, was part of the chorus that said, I am here. And in that chorus, there is a profound and lasting peace. And yet, to walk such a road, to carry such a fire, it will exhaust you. It will wear you down to a noob. There is only one fuel, one source of energy that can possibly sustain a life like this. It is the most misunderstood word in the human language. Chapter 3. Could love be the most radical weapon we never dare to use? We have made love soft. We have made it sentimental, a feeling, a card, a romance. We have tucked it away into a private corner of life, a pleasant diversion from the serious business of the world. But what if we have gotten it terribly, dangerously wrong? For Cornel West, love is not a sentiment. It is an action. It is a public utility. It is the bedrock of justice and the fuel for truth. It is, as he famously says, a radical commitment. Think of that word, commitment. Not an emotion, but a choice, a vow, a pledge, and radical, getting to the root. This is a love that is tough, a love that is willing to disrupt, to criticize, to say the hard thing because it desires so much more for the beloved. It is the love of a parent who disciplines a child. It is the love of a friend who stages an intervention. It is not a love that seeks to be comfortable. It is a love that seeks to awaken. This is the love that allows a man to look into the face of a system of oppression, into the heart of a person who perpetuates it, and not see a monster, but a wounded human being. It is a love that hates the injustice, but never loses sight of the humanity of the unjust. This is perhaps the most difficult task of all. It is far easier to fight an enemy you can despise. It takes superhuman strength to fight an enemy you are trying to love into becoming better. This love is not weak. It is the strongest force imaginable. It is a sword that cuts through the chains of hatred, not by breaking them, but by melting them with a heat so intense it can only be generated by the heart. Why is this the crucial weapon? Because bitterness is a toxin. Resentment is a parasite that consumes the host. A life spent fighting against things, if fueled only by anger, will eventually burn out and leave behind a hollow man, cynical and weary. But a life spent fighting for something, fueled by a deep, abiding, and radical love for humanity, that fire never goes out. It is renewable. It is sustainable. It allows you to be wounded again and again and not become hard, to be disappointed 1,000 times and not become cynical. This is the final quiet offering of Cornel West's unshaken voice. It is an invitation to arm yourself not with sharper weapons, but with a deeper love. To see your work in the world, your parenting, your friendships, your passing interactions, as acts of this radical commitment. To ask not, what do I want to achieve, but what do I love so much that I will never stop serving it? This love is the thread that ties it all together. The fire of truth is lit with its flame. The road of justice is paved with its stones. It is the beginning and the end of the journey. And so as the night deepens and your thoughts begin to drift, consider the fire you carry, consider the road you walk, and ask yourself the most personal, the most quiet, the most powerful question of all. What is the name of the love that fuels you? What is the thing you are so radically committed to that it will sustain you through all the winters of the world? There is no need to answer now. The question itself is a seed. Let it find its soil in your dreams. Let it be. Let it grow. Sleep well. Chapter 4. What if the price of a comfortable lie is the very soul you seek to save? There is a silence in this hour that is different from all others. It's the silence after the door has closed, after the screen has gone dark, when you are left alone with the echo of your own thoughts. And in that echo, a question sometimes forms, a quiet, unsettling one. It whispers from the corners of a life lived well, a life of reasonable compromises and practical decisions. What is the true cost of a comfort not just of the body, but of the mind? What have we traded for a little peace? We live in a world that sells anesthesia for the soul. It comes in many forms. The gentle hum of a narrative that confirms what we already believe. The warm blanket of belonging to a tribe that thinks just as we do. The seductive, easy answer to a profoundly difficult question. These are the comfortable lies. Not grand deceptions necessarily, but small, daily acquiescences. The nod when we should shake our head, the silence when we should speak, the look away when we should meet a gaze. We tell ourselves, it is for our peace, for our safety, for a quiet life. But tonight, in this honest dark, let's ask the question that Cornel West's life and work puts before us, not as an accusation, but as a tender, heartbreaking inquiry. What if that price is US? Think of the man himself. You've seen him. The unruly hair, the dark suits that seem to hold the dust of 1,000 libraries and protest marches, the eyes that hold a deep, almost sorrowful knowledge. He is not a comfortable man. He does not trade in comfortable ideas. He is a dissonant chord in a melody written for easy listening. And why? Why choose that path? It is because he operates from a terrifying and beautiful premise, that truth is not a trophy to be won, but a weight to be carried, a fire to be tended. And that fire burns away the pleasant fiction, the convenient half-truth. It burns, and the heat is immense, and it is so much easier to step back into the cool shade of not knowing, not seeing, not engaging. But that cool shade, it has a cost. It's the cost of a soul slowly numbing itself to the suffering of others, and in doing so, becoming a stranger to its own humanity. We think we are saving ourselves from pain, from conflict, from the exhausting burden of caring in a world that gives so little reward for it. But what are we saving if in the process we lose the very thing that makes us feel alive? That spark of outrage at injustice, that capacity for deep, unflinching empathy, that part of us that hears a wrong note in the universe and must try to correct it. This is the core of the Westian project. It is a philosophy of sacred discomfort. It is the belief that a troubled soul is an awake soul, that a heart that breaks is a heart that works. Imagine for a moment a life where every truth is softened, every edge is sanded down. A life where you never risk being wrong, because you never truly stand for anything. A life where your convictions are as flexible as the prevailing wind. It sounds peaceful, doesn't it? A still pond, never disturbed by a stone. But what lives in a still pond? What grows there? Without the disturbance, the oxygen leaves the water. Without the ripple, the surface becomes a perfect green mirror of stagnation. This is the comfortable lie. It is the peace of the grave. It is the soul opting for a gentle death long before the body is done with it. Cornel West would have us be a raging river, not a still pond. A river is noisy. It is unpredictable. It carves canyons through solid rock with its relentless flow. It is never the same from one moment to the next. It is, by its very nature, uncomfortable. It is alive. To carry his fire is to accept that to be truly alive is to be in a state of holy agitation. It is to feel the friction of the world against your beliefs, and to know that friction is not a sign you are broken, but a sign you are moving. It is to understand that the peace we so often seek is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. Not the silence of agreement, but the profound quiet that comes after you have spoken your piece, your soul laid bare, with love and courage, no matter the consequence. So as you drift in this space between waking and dreaming, ask not what truths you can acquire to make yourself more certain. Ask what comfortable lies you might need to surrender, to make yourself more whole. The soul you save will not be a pristine, untouched thing. It will be scarred and weathered and real. It will be yours. Chapter 5. Is a silent witness to injustice a co-conspirator with the darkness? And from that thought, of the individual soul and its choices, the river of our contemplation widens. It flows out from the private chamber of the self into the public square, into the marketplace of ideas, the crowded streets of human endeavor. And here, the question becomes not just about what we believe in the quiet of our own minds, but what we do when those beliefs are called to account by the world. When we see it, the small cruelty, the systemic failure, the quiet despair in a neighbor's eyes, the loud injustice on a distant shore brought to us through a screen. We see. We are witnesses. And in that moment, a choice is laid at our feet, a choice that defines the moral architecture of a life, to speak or to be silent. The easy thought, the comfortable one, is that silence is neutral. It is a non-action, a pause, a waiting, the space between notes. We tell ourselves, we are gathering information. We are not yet sure. It is not our place. Our one voice would not matter in the cacophony anyway. This is the seduction of silence. It dresses itself in the robes of wisdom and patience. But Cornel West, with that prophetic voice that cuts through the finery, asks us to see silence for what it can so often be. Not a refuge, but a surrender. Not a pause, but a permission slip granted to darkness. Is it possible, he implores us to consider, that to stand in silence while injustice occurs is to become, in some profound and moral sense, a co-conspirator? Think of the historical echo. It is not the words of the oppressors that history condemns most fiercely. It is the chilling silence of the multitude that allowed it to happen. The silence that said, "This is not my problem." The silence that asked, "What could I have done?" That silence is not empty. It is heavy. It is filled with the ghost of action not taken, of words not spoken. Dr. West calls us to a different tradition, a tradition of noisy, inconvenient, disruptive love, a love that cannot bear to see its object harmed, and so must cry out, must intervene, must stand in the way. Justice, in this view, is not a distant city we hope to one day reach. It is the very road we build, with every word we speak against falsehood, with every hand we extend in solidarity, with every refusal to let a wrong stand unchallenged. This is not about grand gestures. It is about the daily texture of our moral lives. It is the choice to correct a harmful stereotype in a conversation, even if it causes an awkward pause. It is the decision to question an unethical practice at work, even if it risks a promotion. It is the willingness to stand with someone who is being marginalized, even if it means you might be marginalized alongside them. It is the understanding that your voice, however small it may seem in the moment, is a stone added to the foundation of that road toward justice. And without it, the road remains unfinished. The journey is delayed. To be a co-conspirator with darkness, it doesn't require you to wear a black hat or sign an evil pact. It can simply require your silence, your look away, your decision that your comfort, your safety, your social capital is more valuable than the right thing. Dr. West's life is a testament against this. He has sacrificed prestige, positions, and popularity on the altar of speaking truth to power. He has chosen the awkwardness of truth over the smoothness of complicity. He understands that the world's brokenness is not merely the work of those who commit evil acts, but is equally the work of those who, having seen the act, choose to do nothing. The witness has a responsibility. To see is to be implicated. To know is to be called. So tonight, as you hover at the edge of sleep, think not of the grand speeches you might one day give on a world stage. Think of the small, daily moments of witnessing and ask yourself, in my silence, what am I building? What am I allowing? Am I a stone in the road to justice, or am I just more of the roadblock? Chapter 6. Could the deepest love be a sorrowful, unblinking gaze at a broken world? And this brings us to the final, and perhaps most tender, of our contemplations. We have spoken of truth as a fire we must carry, even if it burns. We have spoken of justice as a road we must build, even with our bare hands. But what is the fuel for that fire? What is the motivation for that hard labor? For Cornel West, the answer is always, always love. But not the love of greeting cards or sentimental songs. Not a love that is easy or comfortable or simple. His is a tragicomic love. A love that stares directly into the abyss of human suffering, cruelty and nihilism, and still chooses to care, still chooses to fight, still chooses to hope. This is the radical core of his being, and it forces upon us a question that can shake a person to their foundation. Could it be that the deepest, most profound love we can offer the world is not a cheerful smile, but a sorrowful, unblinking gaze? We have been taught that love is a feeling of warmth, of connection, of happiness. And it can be. But that is the love of calm seas and sunny days. What about the love required in the storm? What is the love that looks at a child suffering in poverty and doesn't look away? What is the love that confronts a friend deep in the throes of self-destruction and speaks a hard truth? What is the love that regards a nation's original sins, slavery, genocide, oppression, and insists on remembering, on lamenting, on seeking repair? This love is not warm, it is searing. It is not happy, it is heartbroken. It is a love that is willing to break its own heart over and over again by truly seeing the world's pain and by refusing to deny that pain exists. This is the love that Cornel West embodies. It is why his joy seems so deep, because it is not a denial of sorrow, but a transcendence of it. It is a joy that has stared into the sorrow and has not been defeated by it. He speaks often of a wound that never closes. This is not a metaphor for bitterness. It is a metaphor for fidelity. It is a commitment to never letting the world's pain become abstract to you, to never let it become a statistic, to never let your heart callous over. To keep the wound open is to keep the capacity for empathy alive. It is to remain vulnerable to the world. And this vulnerability, this courageous openness to being hurt by the suffering of others, is the very essence of his philosophy of love. It is a love that manifests as solidarity, not pity from a distance, but a profound recognition that your destiny is tied up with mine, that I am not free if you are in chains, that I cannot be truly healthy if you are sick, that my humanity is inextricably linked to yours. This love moves beyond charity, which can often be a way of maintaining distance, of giving alms without giving yourself, and into the dangerous, messy territory of kinship. It is a love that demands justice because it cannot bear to see its beloved harmed. It is a love that speaks truth because it cannot bear to see its beloved living a lie. This is a demanding love, an exhausting love, a love that can feel, in moments, like a terrible weight. But it is also the only love that makes any sense in a broken world. A cheerful love that ignores the brokenness is a lie. A cynical love that accepts the brokenness is a surrender. But a sorrowful, unblinking love, that is the beginning of healing. It is the first and most necessary step. It is the love of a parent watching over a sick child through the night. their heart aching with a fear they cannot voice, but their hand steady, their presence unwavering. They are not happy, but they are present. And in that profound, painful presence, there is a love deeper than any happiness could ever be. So, as you finally let go of the day, and the boundaries between thought and dream begin to soften, consider the gaze you turn upon the world. Is it a glance? A look away? A search only for things that please you? Or can you, in the quiet strength of your own spirit, find the courage for an unblinking gaze, to look at the brokenness and the pain and the injustice, and to answer it not with despair, but with a love that is deep enough to hold the sorrow, a love that is strong enough to carry the truth, a love that is brave enough to walk the road of justice. This is the unshaken voice. This is the fire in the dark. This is the love that remains. Chapter 7. What if the most dangerous comfort is the one you build for yourself? There is a room I want you to picture with me. It's not a grand room, but it is undeniably comfortable. The chair is worn in just the right way, conforming to the shape of a life lived sitting. The light is a soft, golden hue, casting no harsh shadows, asking no difficult questions. From the window you can see the world, but the glass is thick, double-paned, and it filters the sound of the storm outside into a distant, almost pleasant hum. This room, it is warm, it is safe, and if you are not very, very careful, it can become a tomb for your soul. What if the most dangerous comfort is the one you build for yourself? Not the prison others lock you in, but the sanctuary you lock yourself inside, throwing away the key for the sake of a manageable peace. This is where we begin to understand a man like Cornel West, not with his booming voice in a crowded auditorium, but in the profound, unsettling silence he must cultivate within himself. To speak as he speaks, with that unvarnished, prophetic urgency, one must first make a conscious daily decision to step out of that comfortable room, to feel the immediate bite of the cold air, to hear the unfiltered scream of the world. It is a choice to trade a manageable temperature for an honest one. And this is the first, the most fundamental rebellion. It is a rebellion against the self. We live in an age engineered for comfort, not just physical comfort, but moral and intellectual comfort. Algorithms feed us opinions we already hold. News outlets massage our anxieties into a predictable rhythm of outrage and relief. We are encouraged to be consumers of justice, to wear it like a tasteful pin, to signal it in a profile, to digest it in bite-sized, palatable chunks that don't disrupt the digestion of a good meal. This is the well-appointed room. It is so easy to live here, so easy to believe that because we feel a pang of sympathy, we have done the work of empathy, that because we are disturbed, we are engaged. But Dr. West, he is a man who lives in the drafty corridors, in the unheated spaces of raw truth. His comfort is not found in the temperature of the room, but in the fierce heat of his own conviction. His philosophy is not a shelter from the storm. It is the commitment to stand in the storm, to feel its full force, and to describe, with poetic precision, every drop of rain, every crack of thunder, for those who have only heard it muffled. He refuses the double-paned glass. He smashes it, and in doing so, he asks us a terrifying, necessary question. What have we agreed not to see, not to hear, not to feel for the sake of our own comfort? What truth have we traded for a good night's sleep? This is not an accusation. It is an invitation. an invitation to feel the chill, to notice the quiet, desperate agreements we make with ourselves. I'll care about that tomorrow. It's too complex to get into. What difference can I really make? These are the bricks and mortar of that comfortable room. And Cornel West's voice is the sledgehammer, not to destroy us, but to liberate us. He embodies the terrifying freedom that comes when you realize that your peace of mind was purchased with a currency of your own integrity, and that true peace, the only kind that matters, is not the absence of tension, but the presence of justice. Not the quiet of complacency, but the deep, resonant hum of a soul in alignment with its own moral compass. It is a peace that is anything but quiet. It is a roaring, unshakable thing. And so, if we find the courage to step out of that room of our own making, to let the real air touch our skin, we are immediately met with a new sound. Not the storm itself, but the sound of our own footfall on the ground. The question becomes, what mark does that step leave? What sound does it make in the waiting silence? Chapter 8. Does a man's integrity echo in a world that prefers whispered agreements? Listen, for a moment, not to me, but to the space around you, to the world. What do you hear? The hum of a device, the distant sigh of a car on a wet street, but underneath that, the real soundtrack of our time, the murmur, the endless low-frequency negotiation of whispered agreements, the unspoken pact to be reasonable, to be practical, to not make a scene, to understand that certain truths, while true, are inconvenient. They disrupt the flow of business. They make for awkward dinners. They demand a response we are not sure we have the energy to give. So we whisper. We agree in hushed tones that the world is broken. And then we agree, just as quietly, to build our lives in the cracks, hoping the whole thing doesn't come crashing down on our heads. Now, into this genteel silence, bring the sound of Cornel West's voice. It does not whisper. It is not reasonable. It is a clarion call, a gong struck in a library. It is the sound of integrity. And integrity, by its very nature, does not negotiate. It does not seek a consensus. It simply is. A deep, unwavering note that holds its tone, regardless of the cacophony around it. So, does a man's integrity echo in a world that prefers whispered agreements? The answer is yes. But the echo does not bounce off the walls of power and privilege. They are too padded, too soundproofed by self-interest. It echoes in the hollowed-out places within us. It finds the chambers of our own conscience that we have emptied out and tries to fill them with its disquieting sound. Think of him not as a politician with a policy, but as a jazz musician. In the tradition of John Coltrane, Coltrane didn't play notes everyone wanted to hear. He played the notes that had to be played, the ones true to the song's inner structure, to the emotional core of the moment. It was a musical integrity, uncompromising. It could be jarring. It could be beautiful. It was always profoundly honest. Dr. West does this with words. He plays the truth like a complex spiritual chord progression, what he calls jazz in the world of ideas. He is not reading the room and tailoring his message. He is reading the depths of the human condition and reporting back in real time with a sorrowful, hopeful fury. The world calls this impractical. It calls it idealism. But what is more practical than a foundation that does not shift? What is more realistic than building your house on the bedrock of principle, rather than on the shifting sands of convenience? The whispered agreements are a practical, short-term solution for navigating a cocktail party. They are a catastrophic, long-term strategy for building a life of meaning. Because every whisper is a small betrayal of a truth, a betrayal of someone that truth would help, a betrayal of the self. Cornel West stands as a living testament to the fact that integrity is not a solitary silent virtue. It is a resonant one. It is a sound that once made, travels. It might not change the world tomorrow, but it changes the person next to you today. It changes you. It affirms the reality of a moral universe, a universe where a right action is its own reward. Not because it leads to victory, but because it is right. In a world of whispers, a clear voice becomes a landmark, a North Star. You may not ever reach it, but it assures you that direction exists, that truth is not just a concept, but a sound that can be made by a human voice. And if one voice can make it, perhaps another can find the courage to join the chord. And this sound, this unwavering note of integrity, what is its source? From what well does this water draw? It is not from a place of anger, though anger is there. It is not from a place of judgment, though judgment is sharp. It is drawn from a source far deeper, far more terrifying, and infinitely more powerful. It is drawn from a love so vast, it has no choice but to be honest. Chapter 9. Is love's truest form a willingness to shatter the beloved's illusions? We have been sold a story about love, a story that is soft-focused and gentle, a story where love is a blanket, a warm embrace, a safe harbor that protects us from the harshness of the world. And that is a part of it, surely, but it is the smallest part, the easiest part. There is a deeper, more terrifying current to real love, a love that is not afraid to wound, a love that sees the beloved, a person, a community, a country, in the full, flawed light of truth, and loves it so fiercely that it cannot bear to see it live a lie. Is love's truest form a willingness to shatter the beloved's illusions, even if it means being hated for it? Even if it means causing pain in the name of a greater healing? This is the furnace that heats the voice of Cornel West. This is the source. We mistake his critique for anger. We mistake his relentlessness for cynicism. But listen closer. Lean in. Underneath the thunder, there is a profound, heart-breaking sorrow. It is the sound of a lover's quarrel with the world. He is not an outsider throwing rocks. He is a devoted child of a dysfunctional America, screaming in the house of his father. This house is on fire. I love you too much to let you sleep. He is the physician who must break the bone to reset it, who must cause pain to facilitate healing. The cheap love, the easy love, would administer a sedative. It would let the patient sleep comfortably into the grave. The deep love, the costly love, operates. This is a love that refuses to flatter. It is a love that speaks ugly truths to power, not just because power is wrong, but because he believes that power too is capable of redemption, of being more than its own greed and cruelty. It is a love that holds a mirror up to a nation and forces it to look at its own reflection, not to cause shame, but to spark a recognition, a painful, necessary first step toward change. I am critiquing you, he seems to say, because I remember what you promised to be. I am holding you to your own highest words, your own sacred documents, because I believe you are capable of reaching them. This is a love that believes in transformation. And this is where his message becomes almost unbearably personal. For who among us has not been loved this way? A parent who disciplined us not out of anger, but out of a desire to see us become better. A friend who told us a hard truth about ourselves, when it would have been easier to stay silent. That truth hurt. It shattered our illusion of ourselves. It was a moment of profound discomfort, and yet in retrospect, it was a gift. It was the hand that pulled us out of the comfortable room we were building for ourselves. It was an act of immense courage and profound love. Cornel West does this for a culture. He is that friend, that grieving, hopeful parent. His unshaken voice is not a hammer of condemnation. It is a scalpel of love. It is painful because the surgery is necessary. He loves justice because he loves people. He speaks truth because he loves the world too much to abandon it to its own falsehoods. He is willing to be unpopular, to be dismissed as radical or difficult, because his commitment is not to being liked, but to being loving, in its truest, most radical form. This love is not a sentiment. It is a verdict. It is a verdict that says, "You are better than this. We are better than this. Now, let's prove it." And in that verdict, there is more hope than in 1,000 whispered agreements. There is a foundation. There is a rock on which a new world and a rested soul can finally be built. Sleep now and dream of what you might build. Close your eyes now, just for a moment. Let the weight of the day, the noise of the world, the endless scroll of opinions, let it all just drain away into the silence of this room, into the darkness behind your eyelids. There's a space there, a quiet chamber we so rarely visit. It's where the big questions live. Not the questions shouted on screens, but the ones that whisper to us in the dead of night. The ones about who we are and what we're made of, and what we're willing to stand for in a world that often feels like it's coming apart at the seams. Tonight, we're going to visit that chamber, and we're going to listen for a voice that has never stopped whispering back. A voice that speaks of truth, justice, and love, not as abstract ideas, but as vital, breathing things. The voice of Cornel West. This isn't a lecture, it's a story, a slow, meandering river of thought, meant not to fill your mind with facts, but to quiet it with wonder. So just listen, and let the current carry you. Chapter 10. What if the echo of a forgotten promise is the only truth that remains? There's a sound, a particular kind of silence, that exists in places of abandoned hope. The hollow echo in an empty factory that once hummed with purpose. The dusty quiet of a community center whose doors are now chained shut. The faint, fading memory of a handshake that meant something. A word that was a bond. We feel these absences more than we see them. They are the ghosts of promises broken. Promises of a fair day's wage, of a just society, of a country that lived up to its own soaring words. We're surrounded by the architecture of these forgotten vows, and in that landscape, it's so easy to believe that truth itself is just another relic. Something polished and presented to us, a commodity to be bought and sold, twisted, spun, until it serves power, not people. We become cynical. We arm ourselves with irony because it's easier to mock the promise than to mourn its loss. We build a shell around our hearts because the constant disappointment is just too heavy to carry. But what if that echo isn't just a ghost? What if, in all that emptiness, the echo itself is the truth? The promise may be broken, but the echo of it remains. And that echo is a testament to the fact that the promise was made, that the ideal was once articulated, dreamed of, fought for. The echo is proof of the original sound. Cornel West does not step onto a stage to offer a new truth. He steps into the silence to listen for that echo. And then, with a voice that is part thunder, part sorrowful moan. He becomes that echo. He repeats the promise, not as a naive dreamer, but as a witness, a rememberer. He holds up the tattered parchment of the American promise, the Christian promise of grace, the human promise of decency, and he says, "This was said, this was sworn. Do you hear it? Can you still hear it?" His truth is not a cold, hard fact. It is a faithful echo in a cavern of forgetfulness. It is the act of remembering what we, as a people, collectively vowed to be, and holding that memory up against what we have become. This is a deeply uncomfortable truth. It's much easier to live in the cynical present, where nothing is expected and therefore no one can be disappointed. To embrace the echo is to willingly feel the pain of the gap, the chasm between the dream and the reality. It is to feel the weight of that broken promise on your own shoulders. It is to acknowledge that we have fallen short. This is why Cornel West so often speaks with a tone of profound sadness, a tragicomic blues. He is singing the song of the promise and the song of the breakage simultaneously. He is the living, breathing embodiment of that tension. To listen to him is to be invited to feel that tension within yourself. To ask yourself, what promises have I forgotten? What vows have I let slip into silence? And what would it mean? What would it feel like to become a faithful echo in my own life? To repeat the good and the just and the true, not because it is easy or winning or popular, but simply because it is right, because the echo must continue or the promise dies forever. The truth, then, is not a trophy to be won. It is a song to be sung, a story to be told, an echo to be tended, passed from one heart to the next through the long, dark night. It is the most sacred form of keeping faith. And so we tend the echo, we keep the faith. But for what? To what end? If the world is indeed a hurricane, what is the point of our single fragile flame? The question isn't whether the wind will blow it out. The question is why we bother to light it at all. Chapter 11. Is a candle in a hurricane an act of folly or the highest form of hope? Picture it. The hurricane is everything. It is the roar of the market, the shriek of divisive politics, the cold, indifferent sweep of historical forces, the sheer scale of suffering and injustice. It is a wind that seems to tear the very roof off of hope. And there, in the midst of it, a figure stands. And he lights a match. He cups his hand around a tiny, trembling candle flame. From a purely practical, rational standpoint, this is insanity. It is the very definition of a futile gesture. The wind will take it. It has to. The forces arrayed against it are too vast, too powerful. This is the voice of the realist, the pragmatist. The voice inside so many of us that says, don't stick your neck out. Don't make a target of yourself. Play the game. Lower your voice. Tend your own garden. You can't fight the hurricane. This voice is not evil. It is often born of weariness, of self-preservation. It has looked at the storm and calculated the odds and found them wanting. But then there is the other calculation, not of odds, but of meaning. Cornel West is our philosopher of the candle. He has looked into the heart of the hurricane and declared that the act of lighting the candle is not about winning. It is not a strategic maneuver. It is a metaphysical necessity. It is a declaration of who you are in the face of all that seeks to define you. The candle is not lit for the hurricane. The hurricane is incapable of seeing it. The candle is lit for the other figures huddled in the dark. It is a signal. It says, I am here, I am still here, and I have not consented to the darkness. It is an act of radical connectivity. One candle does not illuminate the storm, but it allows two people to see each other, then four, then a dozen. A network of tiny defiant points of light, creating a constellation of solidarity in the overwhelming black. This is what Dr. West means by justice. Justice is not a distant city we are marching toward, a finish line we will someday cross. Justice is the very act of marching together. It is the quality of the relationship between the marchers. It is the shared understanding, communicated in a glance between two people guarding their tiny flames, that they are not alone. This is a hope that is divorced from optimism. Optimism is the belief that the storm is clearing. It's a prediction about the weather. Hope is the belief that your candle matters, regardless of the weather. Optimism can be crushed by a changing forecast. Hope is untouchable by the wind. It is an inner discipline, a choice made anew every single morning to strike the match again. Dr. West's voice is that match strike. It is sharp, it is sudden. It creates a spark that pushes back the shadows for just a moment. His unshaken quality is not that of a mountain that doesn't feel the wind. It is that of a man who has made peace with the wind and has decided to light his candle anyway. He knows the flame might flicker. He knows it might gutter and almost die. But the act of lighting it is a victory in itself. It is a refusal to let the terms of the world be set by the storm. So ask yourself, in the quiet of this night, where is my hurricane, and where is my candle? And what would it mean to shield it, not with a wall of bitter defiance, but with the gentle, courageous cup of my own hand, and to look for the other lights flickering bravely in the overwhelming dark? And when we see those other lights, when we recognize each other not as competitors for scarce resources, but as fellow travelers in the gale, a new feeling emerges. Not just solidarity, not just shared purpose, but something far more profound and far more terrifying, the thing we rarely dare to name. Chapter 12. Could the unyielding pursuit of justice be the last great act of love? We have sanitized love. We have wrapped it in cellophane and sold it as a sentiment, a feeling of warmth, a Hallmark card, a romance novel. We have made it private, personal, manageable. But what if love is none of those things? What if love is the most demanding, most devastating, most radically disruptive force a human being can ever encounter? What if love is not a noun, but a verb, not a thing you feel, but a thing you do? A commitment to see the world as it is in all its brutal, broken beauty, and to refuse to look away. And not only to refuse to look away, but to actively engage in its repair. This is the love that Cornel West preaches. It is a love indistinguishable from justice. Because what is justice but love distributed? What is justice but love making itself practical, making itself real in the world of laws and economies and streets and schools? To love someone, truly love them, is to want for them the conditions in which they can flourish, to want them to have dignity, to have safety, to have opportunity, to have peace. And if you want that for one person you hold dear, how can you not want it for every person? How can your love remain a small, quiet thing in a corner when it demands to become a loud, courageous thing in the town square? This love is not safe. It will break your heart. To love a broken world is to consent to a lifetime of heartbreak. You will see the wounds up close. You will feel the pain of others as if it were your own. This is what Dr. West means when he speaks of the tragic. He is a man intimately acquainted with sorrow because he loves so deeply and so widely. His voice often cracks under the weight of it. This is not a weakness. It is the evidence of his love. A heart that does not break at the sight of a child in poverty, or a family evicted, or a dream deferred, is a heart that has not loved. This is the unblinking gaze. This is the sorrowful, unwavering attention. And from that heartbreak, from that deep, aching love, comes an unstoppable energy. Not a bitter, hateful energy that seeks to destroy the oppressor, but a loving energy that seeks to free everyone, the oppressed from their chains, and the oppressor from their own poisoned soul. The pursuit of justice, then, is the surgery we perform on a sick world, and it is performed with the instruments of love, a fierce love, a demanding love, a love that will not tolerate lies, a love that speaks hard truths, because truth is the only scalpel sharp enough to cut out the cancer of delusion. This is the final, seamless unity in Cornel West's voice. Truth is the echo of the promise we must not forget. Justice is the candle we light together in the hurricane. And love is the fuel for both. It is the why. It is the deep, aching reason behind the echo and the flame. It is the courage to remember and the courage to stand. It is the understanding that we are all, every single one of us, in this together. So as you drift towards sleep, let this question sit with you, not as a burden, but as a quiet revelation. What if the most radical thing you could ever do is to simply love the world enough to tell it the truth, to love it enough to demand justice for everyone in it, to love it enough to never ever give up on its promise? That voice you hear, that unshaken voice in the broken world, it isn't just speaking about love, it is speaking from love, and it is inviting you to do the same, to let your life be an echo of a promise, to let your actions be a candle in the wind, to let your heart break open, and from that broken, beautiful place, to love this world back to health, one quiet, courageous act at a time. Sleep now, and may your dreams be full of echoes and candlelight, and a love that is deep enough to change everything. Good night.